In sports, we always talk about coaches and players, but somebody has to hire the coaches in order to get it done. And one of the best ADs in the Southeastern Conference, Mitch Barnhart, is calling it a career. At least in this role, he is going to be in an administrative role over it in Kentucky, in the Bluegrass State. 24 years, hires some big names like John Calipari and Bob Stoops. Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. I'm Gerhard Mathangani, joined by Gabriella Genereaux and Patrick Walsh. Behind the scenes, first of all, Gabriella, number one, welcome. This is the first 2-hour show.
I know. I'm excited.
I don't know if you did this on purpose, but you got the blue on. It's like, it looks like Kentucky blue. I think, are you honoring Mitch Barnhart?
Oh, no. We'll never be wearing Kentucky blue.
I don't know if you're honoring Mitch Barnhart or not. First of all, number one, welcome. Obviously, we've talked to you a couple times here on this program.
Thank you.
But I want to know how it's been overall for you. First full day here on the show.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm happy to be here. I think it's kind of been a whirlwind the past 3 days, starting on Monday, but I'm excited to jump right in. I think we're going to have a lot of fun here.
Absolutely. Awesome stuff. Great stuff on today's show as far as the programming goes. We talk about Mitch Barnhart calling it a career after more than 2 decades at the helm. Clemson, they lost last night. Auburn, they won last night. Do those two things put them in parallel places and opposite places as it relates to the NCAA tournament? Georgia locks up an NCAA bid, and Texas A&M women looking to make a surge in the NCAA tournament. But first, I'll start off in the SEC tournament. First of all, Gabriella, we always talk about coaches. That's what I led with at the beginning. But a lot of times, the guys that kind of go beyond, like I would say men and women that kind of go talked about only in a bad way when they make a few wrong hires are these athletic directors. But It's kind of good to be able to give somebody their flowers
for sure
before they go on to another role in administration.
For sure. And I think he has done a lot in his career. But I think when you think about it to this point, the way that college athletics has changed over the past 23, 24 years he's been in it is monstrous.
Yes.
And that's hard to keep up with.
Yeah.
It's hard to evolve with those changes. So while he has had a great career, I think it may have been time for him to step aside.
Right. Well, we talked about some of the big names he's hired. John Calipari. And then, of course, Mark Stoops, and obviously of the Stoops family with his brother Bob there as well. I think, though, when you look at a guy like him and a guy like his tenure, the coaches usually get the wins. Mm-hmm. I think the ADs can lay a lot of claim to the championships, whether it's SEC championships or national championships, because it's like, hey, you are the person that has to set the tone for the hiring and firing of these people. And so to me, I do like to give a lot of the credit to the athletic directors of what their coaches end up doing.
And it's a hard spot to be in, right?
100%.
Because nobody wants to be the one in control of the firing. Like letting go of Cal, I'm sure, was not an easy decision in Lexington. So it's definitely not easy. And they get a lot of the praise when it's a good decision, but they get a lot of hate when it's the wrong one.
Well, just look at what happened over at LSU, and then the guy ends up getting fired, and then, and then the governor gets involved. Patrick will bring you in here for this part of the conversation. I think that when you talk about a guy like Mitch Barnhart, he's obviously going now to the administrative role. He's going to help out with the Kentucky president. But when I think of Mitch Barnhart, I think of a guy like Gabriella just mentioned, was able to keep up with the times and keep up with what was going on 2 decades ago, before pre-NIL, pre-transfer portal, pre-house settlement, to where we are now.
Yeah, I mean, you do take a look at some of the coaches that he did end up hiring. Mark Stoops, who is now the winningest football coach in program history. Obviously, John Calipari, I believe, only missed the NCAA tournament twice while Coach Cal was there. This guy seemed to always find the right fit for the job. And I'm sure it's too early to see what's going to happen with Will Stein with the football program, but I'm sure that he's going to be the guy as well. But it almost, in my opinion, it stems beyond just the coaching tree. Because if you look at his administration tree, Greg Byrne, John Cohen, Scott Strickland, all athletic directors within the SEC, these are all guys that worked under him during those 24 years.
And keep this graphic up, because you take a look at Mark Byrne, he hires Nate Oates. Of course, Alabama goes to a Final Four. John Cohen, he just made a football hire, but also he hired, he approved the hiring of Stephen Pearl. We've seen what the baseball program has done under Butch Thompson. Yep. They made Omaha the College World Series. And then, of course, at Florida, they've been going through some growing pains. But He also hired the guy that coaches their basketball team and won a national championship. So I think there is something to be said for, people talk about coaching trees a lot. I think this might be the first time I've ever seen an administrative tree.
That's true.
And
that's true.
It seems to have worked. It works in his favor.
Because everyone loves to talk about the Nick Saban coaching tree,
Correct.
right?
Right.
How many head coaches has been under him at some point. So it's cool to see that works for the ADs too.
No question about it. So Kentucky will find new leadership. I left off one name when it comes to Mitch Barnhart for one reason, because we're going to talk about it in two different ways. He also hired Mark Pope, who is the current basketball coach. And of course, Kentucky is a basketball town. John Calipari had amazing success, both with guys that are in the program and then guys that end up going to the NBA. But Kentucky's in a kind of an interesting situation right now. Big Blue Nation is a little bit frustrated. You know how much basketball means to Kentucky. How important is this, in your opinion, for Mark Pope to end off the regular season and the SEC tournament on a good note?
I think it's incredibly important, but I don't think it's an end-all be-all.
Okay.
I think two years in, I think he's had, they've been decent, average, I guess, over the 2 years. It hasn't been up to Kentucky's standard, but I think they would have to be a lot lower for it to be the end for him.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the grumblings are a lot of the grumblings we see from Alabama football fans when it comes to Kalen DeBoer.
It's just they're used to being on top.
Right.
So it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to be anything but that.
Yeah, and last year they made a decent run in the NCAA tournament. So it's like, okay, are we making progress towards getting back to the Sweet 16? I think most Kentucky basketball, their floor is the Sweet 16, which is it might be unfair because that is a very quick one and done tournament.
Right.
But Patrick, I think that when it comes to Mark Pope, and we've talked about this with both Colby Wilson as well as Connor over there in Lexington, I think a lot of it is you can't judge it game to game. It's just like trying to watch, Bitcoin day to day. You'll just if you're in it, you'll just get frustrated because it just does this.
Right.
Even if it's going up, you might not see it, full throttle.
I bring up a point that I've been bringing up the entire season, and it's the monetary value of this roster so far this season.
Yeah.
We talked about with Kansas last year.
Yeah.
With the $20 million roster that they had. I don't know if you can really consider this season a success to this point, just because $22 million, you're in the position that you're in. A $22 million roster, I'm going to be frank with you, should not lose 11 games.
Yeah.
If you're going to be dishing out all of this money to go 5-10 in quad one games, 5-7 against ranked opponents, I will give them credit, though, because over those last 8 games against ranked opponents, I do believe that they're 5-3. I think they started off the season 0-4, and what did we talk about on the show? Well, Kentucky can't beat anyone ranked.
Right.
And then it became, well, Kentucky's losing pretty bad to these teams that are ranked.
Yeah.
So, you got to give them some credit here. They've been able to right the ship, but still, if I'm Mark Pope, I'd be a little bit unsettled by this. I know that Mitch Barnhart is still going to be there at Kentucky.
Right.
But a new leader, a new leader means a new guy with his own fresh ideas. He's got his own connections, and Big Blue Nation doesn't really like what is going on over there right now.
Yeah, and it's one of the, go ahead.
It'll be interesting to see how many changes he makes right out of the gate, though, because a lot of these hires are new hires to Kentucky.
Right. And I think he'll still have a voice in the program because he's going to now be the assistant to the president. I wrote down his name, Dr. Eli Caputo, the president of the University of Kentucky. So it's not like he's just going away and retiring and going to Cabo. He's like he will actually
it's like
be
Bruce Arians.
Right.
Yeah.
He still will be in and around, and so that voice will still loom. And of course, like you said, ADs want their own guy because you will be kind of connected, as we're seeing on the show, to those people as they move forward. But yesterday we ended off the show with some picks. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think both of you picked Kentucky to win yesterday over Texas A&M.
We did.
I picked my buddy.
I was feeling good there for a minute.
And it did look good for a minute, but I picked my buddy Bucky McMillan to get it done, and they do get it, and they do get it done. Before we talk about that game, let's listen to head coach Mark Pope postgame.
Yeah, it's interesting. We had great focus and great intensity for the first 14 minutes of the game, 12 minutes of the game, actually really good. And then we just lost our focus. We stopped fighting to win catches. We started getting really careless. We got sped up, which is what they do, and we just didn't respond well. And it just spiraled a little bit out of control for us.
Mark, it's always tough when a team kind of loses its focus, but how much more costly is that against a full court press?
It's what they do. 13 turnovers, 18 points is critical in a game like this. It's really critical, and it wasn't just that. It was our careless decision making and where we lost. It's not that we didn't do it for the game. It's we went through a stretch where we lost our minds and we lost our intensity with winning and delivering catches. And not only did that change the score, but it actually let them start to feel good. And when they feel good, they're tough to play. They started really shooting the ball at that point well and got a little momentum. And we actually couldn't turn the tide. I was proud of our guys for continuing to battle, but we just couldn't respond at that point.
I do think that they say that the losses get louder if you're like a Lakers or the Yankees, the Jets. I feel like Kentucky's kind of in that realm that the losses get louder.
Oh, for sure.
From where it sits right now, in your opinion, what is their ceiling and what is their, I guess the floor would be to lose out, to lose your last game of the regular season, to lose in the first round of the SEC tournament, and then lose in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Given that floor, what do you think that their ceiling is given their talent? Because they are talented.
They are talented, and I could see them going far in the SEC championship. And, I mean, surely to a round of 32.
Okay, so say at least second round.
At least second round. And I think that wouldn't be ideal situation for Kentucky basketball, but I think it would be like tolerable for the fans.
Yeah. What about you, Patrick?
The thing that kind of, I don't want to say it annoys me because I'm not a Kentucky fan by any means.
Yeah.
But it just blows my mind sometimes, the decisions, and this goes back to something that we've been talking about this last month. Mark Pope's decision-making in games really doesn't make any sense to me. We were talking about how Otega-Owe had some of his best games of the season, and for some reason in critical moments, Mark Pope puts him on the bench just to rest him, but then we see the other teams go on these crazy runs, and then all of a sudden Kentucky's out of the game. When this team is on, and honestly, when Mark Pope is on with his correct decision-making, this is probably an Elite Eight team. I'm going to be honest with you. If everyone is peaking at the right time, this team's an Elite Eight quality team. The thing is, they're not always on. And we haven't really seen a true good game from Kentucky yet this year. So their floor is a one and done. And I believe one of your overreactions were one and done in the SEC tournament.
I wasn't gonna pat myself on the back on that one, but I think I did call. It's weird.
I gotta give you respect.
And I appreciate that. And it's weird because the thing is, as I wrote down, you weren't here for this yet, so I wrote down on one of the overreactions that Kentucky was going to be one and done the bad way. And I was doing a play on words because, of course, Kentucky always had those one and done players like Anthony Davis and Devin Booker, all like one and done in college. I said they're going to be one and done in the NCAA tournament. And the reason why I thought that was because, like you said, a lot of times coaching in these bigger games comes down to, or these huge games comes down to these small coaching decisions. Can a coach steal 6 points on 3 inbounds plays? Can you disrupt somebody to get in foul trouble just enough? And I just think that Mark Pope was not pressing all the right buttons, so to speak, and pulling all the right levers. And so that's why I thought they were one and done. But the thing about basketball is it is a 5-on-5 sport. One person can change that. And on any given night, Kentucky will have the best player on the floor in Owe. And so I just thought, I think reasonable is what you said, the second round. Win the first game, lose the second game. I do think they have the talent, the overall talent, to win a regional. I just don't think they'll do it because they haven't proven to me in any 6-game stretch of the season that they can do a 6-game stretch in the NCAA tournament.
So would you say their inconsistency and kind of the roller coaster that we have seen, would you put a lot of that on Mark Pope or the players?
Of course. No. Okay. I think a lot of it is on Mark Pope. This is a good question. I'm glad you asked it because I think some of this is on Mark Pope at the beginning. Once you're 20-plus games in, it's the players. Like you got to go out and execute. You see what I'm saying? So so it might be a combination of both. And I don't know when the baton switches hands from the blame going from the coach to the player. But at some point in the season, the coach can only do a certain amount of things in practice and then hand off the baton to the guys, and they execute for those 40 minutes on the floor. And so I can't really blame Otega Oweh because he's had a nice month of February, decent start so far, and I now want to look at the role players, but the role players go back to who is Mark Pope seeing in practice every day and in walkthroughs and all that kind of stuff.
Here's what I'll say, and here's why I do believe it is on Mark Pope. When you take a look at the game last night, and honestly, when I first turned it on, Kentucky was rolling. I thought today we were going to be talking about Texas A&M. Oh no, is the slide continuing? Is this team really an NCAA tournament team after the start that they had? But when you give up a 27-3 run to end the first half, a 14-0 run, and then I think Oweh hit a three-pointer, and then it was another 13-0 run, that's not on the players. That's on the coaching staff and being able to put the right guys in at the right time. And again, I see it all over the internet now. All of Big Blue Nation is still a little bit concerned with Mark Pope's lineups at certain points in the game.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you still win a game when you give up a 27-3 run, I mean, that's an anomaly.
Right.
You just can't win games like that.
Yeah. And there is a lot of this that I think is buckyball.
Yeah.
Like they play such a crazy different style at Texas A&M that they'll throw you off your game. And I think, Patrick, you mentioned this when Bucky McMillan's his play style first entered the league. It's like it's going to take teams a little while to
one
figure
time
him
around.
out the first time around. Yeah.
You'll get away with winning a couple games the first time around, but the second someone figures it out, it's kind of like game over for you at that point.
Yeah.
Until you can respond and adapt to life in the SEC. I still think they're going to make the tournament. Talking about Texas A&M, they won last night, so they're pretty much all but locked in at this point. But I think that looking towards next year already, he's going to have to find ways to adapt and grow, or else this might be a short stint for you.
Yeah,
I do feel like also Texas A&M, though, last night maybe had a little more fight in them because of the situation.
I agree. And the fact that they're almost playing desperate. We saw this, I think, with Missouri a couple of weeks ago. They're teams that are kind of on that cut line, so to speak, or can they, advance their seeding with a win. That desperation kind of comes out.
Right.
And then you see on the opposite side, if a team feels like they're already in, they might be a little more lax.
Yeah.